17th, 2024. This is our 5 o'clock board meeting. It's 5:03. We're going to start by indicating who's here.
Julie Jackson.
Connie Burgess.
Clark Nelson.
Karen Winder. Chris Wynn.
Charity Went. Ben Horsley.
Todd, do you want to?
Todd Auburn.
And go ahead and say your name, kid.
Kim Chandler.
And Nicole McDermott. All right. I'd like to go ahead and get started. We have, first of all, patron participation time. Unless Luke indicates otherwise, I don't believe we had anybody sign up. All right. We do have an action item. This is our sex education materials. For those who are not aware, the materials were made available online for patron review for the last 30 days. We've been able to, as a board, review the materials as well as the comments. I don't know if we got any new ones. I just saw the ones yesterday.
That's it.
But other than that, we've been able to review them. If there's any questions, Dr. Noel Converse is here to answer them. Otherwise, I will entertain a motion for approval of the sex education materials.
Well, I'll get a motion on the table and then we can discuss if people have concerns. So I move that we approve. Is this a first reading or just a single action item?
First reading.
First reading.
First reading of the sex education materials. I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to approve as a first reading the sex education materials. Are there any comments?
I have quick comments. I have some outstanding questions that this curriculum fits in with. Ben, I know you're having some discussions coming up, but still outstanding as of today, some of those questions. I feel like it's okay to discuss them in that form and then we can bring them back. I don't need to take everybody's time with my questions here, but just pointing them out because they do affect my vote tonight. In addition to same concerns I had last time we voted on this topic, I don't feel that we should be teaching kids how to consent to sex. That's an issue for me, and that's part of this curriculum tonight as well, consent materials. So just sharing that with the board and with you, Ben. So thank you.
Just as an update, we have a meeting scheduled with some of our curriculum folks to review some of those items, and then I'll get back in touch with the rest of the board as a follow-up.
Dr. Converse, do you have anything that you want to share as far as this administrative report that you prepared, and that maybe we can get some information with that?
Sure, I'm happy to walk through just the slide deck quickly. I know you've had a chance, so thanks for having me here, but I'll just walk us through just for review so you understand the membership of the committee and the responsibilities designated by the Board of Education here in Granite School District. We have a committee that reviews all materials that come to us for use in the classroom. And by law, that committee is comprised of equal members or more parents than district personnel. Presently, we have 4 parents and 4 school personnel serving on the committee, convene at least twice, once in the fall and once in the spring, more often if necessary, based on what gets presented for potential adoption. And it's anything that a teacher intends to use as an instructional material in terms of both presentations and materials. So personnel coming in to do presentations as well as materials must be reviewed and then approved by the board, by the committee, and then presented to the board. The committee reviews material each time there's new or updated material. So anything that is also currently on our approved list and faces an update by either a vendor or the author of that also must be re-reviewed and approved. The material must by law be approved by a 2/3 majority of the committee before the material is posted for public review. And then 30 days is the amount of time that it must be posted for public review. For example, for our 30-day period, we have a total of 23 comments that we got from public outside of the committee. And then they come to you, and that's for ultimate approval. And so just real quick, just to summarize what we reviewed, we had some models, and those are physical models of anatomy, the internal anatomy that kind of fit together, and of the reproductive systems. And you can see there 100% of our 8-member committee recommended for approval with no dissenting committee comments. I won't read the associated standards, but you can see the health standards that directly link to the use of those models next to the title. And the next thing was a fetal development classroom poster. Again, we had 100% of the 8-member committee recommended for approval with no dissenting comments. Contraception awareness guide poster, 87.5 committee approval, which exceeds the 2/3 required. And then you can see specifically, we had 1 member recommend a modification for high school use only, 1 member not in favor of school at all. The healthy relationships activity cards, we had 100% committee approval, but we had 2 recommendations for modification. 1 was for high school use only, and then the other was to review all of the cards individual for adherence to board rule. As a result, we did remove 3 of the activity cards out of abundance of caution as a result of the committee and parent recommendations that we received. There's a children's book called I Said No. 100% of our 8-member committee recommended that for approval. 1 member asked that or suggested that the book be available in counseling centers versus teacher-led. And then for the public comment period on the reviewed materials, and I can give you the updated numbers off the top of my head, but we had a total of 23 public comments as of September 15th. So I provided this to you last week so that you could have access to it. We had a total of 10 parent comments in full support of all of the materials. 1 parent comment opposing all of those, 1 opposed to the use of reproductive models. We had 3 parents commenting, asking clarification on grade bands, and we provided that clarification to our parents directly. Basically, it was a misunderstanding that perhaps some of these materials were being provided at the elementary level, was the question. And so we clarified that these are specific to Health 1, which happens in 7th or 8th grade, and Health 2, which happens in 10th or 11th grade. The I Said No book, we had 1 comment in favor, 1 opposed, as I said before. The Love or Illusion cards, we had 10 supporting comments, 2 requesting clarification of review of the cards, and 1 opposed. And that is the summary of what.
Just to clarify, could you go back to the previous slide?
Sure.
I'm just making sure I heard this. The I Said No book is only for use in counseling centers?
The I Said No book was recommended by 1 comment to be used only in counseling centers, but that's not what the committee had recommended. The committee
Very good. Thank you
recommended
for
that the
clarifying
teacher
that.
make it available. Yeah.
I have a question also.
Sure.
So when there are recommendations by the committee to modify that, what happens then? Does it get implemented or re-voted on, or does it go back to the table? Or?
Yeah, that's a great question. So basically, whenever a comment comes up or a committee member makes a recommendation, there's further discussion, and they either bring, if there's enough committee members where it's actually affecting the vote, then they'll go back and take a revote and make an adjustment. In this case, I think they talked about it, and 87.5% in the 1 case agreed that it was still okay to go. I think one of the things that sometimes our committee members have a feeling for high school only or a higher level only, and where the standards also apply at the Health 1 level, that's hard to implement. So I think the committee members in the case of the high school recommendation their feeling was that the standard exists at the junior high level as well as the high school level, so they really couldn't confidently agree that it would be high school only.
Thanks.
And just for clarification also, just because these are approved doesn't mean they're going to be used in every classroom. These are just options of what teachers can use, correct?
Correct. So anything that a teacher presents to the sex ed committee for potential review is something perhaps one person wants to use, perhaps a group of teachers may want to use, but it has to go through that rigorous process regardless of if it's one or if it's many. So teachers will have access, if approved, to any of the materials that are available or the presentations that are available or the materials, and they can or choose not to use them.
Noel, could you enlighten us or help review for us how the 8-member committee is selected, who they are, how they are represented,
Yeah.
and so forth? You don't necessarily have to
Sure.
reveal them
Right.
if that's not appropriate, but I think we need a little more information about who they are.
Yeah, so it's begging, it's begging for participation on the sex ed committee. So basically what we do is we send out, and some of you have helped with it in the past, but we send out an all call to please, if you have any parents that are interested, we send it out to principals, we send it out to our health teachers, we send it out to board members, to community councils. If anyone's interested, please consider participating. And actually, over the last couple of years, we've had quite a bit of individuals come forth to participate. However, that doesn't necessarily always pan out through the entire process of approval because it becomes a little bit tedious. Reading all of the materials and having to go back and review sometimes becomes a little bit too much of an ask. So we had quite a few, we were really excited. We had quite a few parents over the last 2 years, but we lost a few this year. So it ended up being just a 4-and-4 match of parents and district personnel. We strong-arm the district personnel a little bit into serving on the committees, but they kind of take their turns.
I wanted to just make sure that the viewpoint was shared, or my viewpoint was shared also about the consent issue, that I really appreciate empowering kids with knowledge of how to know that they have not given consent. And there's a lot of data that shows that helps kids to get out of tricky situations. So I really appreciate having that in here, and we'll vote to approve that, all of it, including that portion. I just wanted to make sure that perspective is also shared.
All right, any further discussion or questions? All right, seeing none, then we'll go ahead and take a vote. We have, again, the action item to approve the sex education materials that have been reviewed as a first reading. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Right, thank you, motion passes. Then we'll go ahead and move on. Who's, is that your computer?
It's Luke's.
Luke, do you have my presentation?
Yeah.
Up and down arrows will move you forward or back.
All right, last year, we approved a mission and vision statement. And as part of that, we talked about core values. This is just kind of cleaning up and coming back to what we did. Just as a reminder, the mission statement is what we do, why we do, and how we do it. The vision statement, what we hope to do by, what we hope to be by doing our mission. Goals, it's kind of our strategic plan, what goals we have set for us. The core values are the ones that fuel all of the above. Because our organization achieves our goals through the lens of our core values, we fulfill our mission, which fuels our vision. With that in mind, just a reminder of our mission: working together with families in the community to empower students to achieve their highest potential by fostering a safe, inclusive, and innovative learning environment to inspire lifelong success, critical thinking, and responsible citizenship. And then our vision: graduate every student with academic excellence for lifelong success. So as we talked about it, if you remember, we talked about what our core values are, what values would I stand by no matter what values do I value in leaders, what principles are most important in daily decisions, and what values support our current mission and vision. When I looked back at our list, these were kind of the ones that we narrowed it down to. This was with community input as well as what the board felt like were our top ones. I could pull up the full thing if you needed to, if you wanted to see them. So I just went through and looked at them and kind of defined them. We do not have to, this is not an action item tonight, so please feel free to, as we read through this, just give me your thoughts. Somebody should take notes. Julie, take notes. Or Chris. Chris has her notebook. She can do it. Thanks, Chris. Okay, so let me know what you guys think. We can bring this back. We can certainly discuss it more. I just threw out some ideas to kind of get us going on this, just because I feel like if we should define our core values as they relate to our mission and vision, and make sure that they are put on our website to help people understand why we have the mission and vision that we do. So academic excellence was I think the top one that we came to, that, you know, our whole purpose for being here is to provide, our number one responsibility is to provide a high quality instruction for our students. Teachers should use innovative teaching methods to provide individualized instruction to challenge students and help them progress in their learning skills. It's just what I put out there. I did go and say, hey, Google, what does academic excellence mean? So there were a couple other things that helped. I did like the one at the bottom there, the academic excellence can help students develop 21st century skills such as critical thinking, creativity, effective communication, and collaboration, which did remind me also of our graduate of granite characteristics. I don't know if this is a place where, because through our academic excellence, that is what we're hoping, that is our target. Those are also the things that they learn as they go through our schools. I don't know if we want to throw in those graduate of granite characteristics there. What are your thoughts on it?
By way of just like setting norms, I'd like to make sure we don't use that. I'm not sure what that tense is, but teachers should. I'd rather say it, teachers use innovative teaching, and through this whole thing, no shoulds, like,
Okay.
or oughts. Just teachers do this, or we do this, or whatever. The other thing I was gonna say, can you show me what the other core values were again? Yeah, okay. So back to academic excellence. One thing I would like to do is figure out in these core values how to connect our talent development value that we are,
With our strategic plan?
yeah. Because one of the things that I value a lot is I think that everybody deserves a great boss. And I feel here like we kind of put the onus of academic excellence on teachers. If we could somehow connect that to everyone. I'm not sure. But there's something about that I would like to somehow include everyone in this value, not just teachers, if that makes sense. And part of that for me is figuring out how to support the teachers, which to me would be making sure they have a great boss, making sure they have a great support system. Boss, principal, just however, the whole tree of who's supervising whom. Right?
So instead of teachers should use innovative teaching methods through the use of innovative teaching methods?
No, I like that. I
Oh.
almost think there should be another sentence, because
Oh, okay.
I do like that, but I think if there could be a connector in there or afterwards that describes how everybody is involved in instruction. Mr. Nerdin, Dr. Nerdin, excuse me, I met him as Mr. Nerdin.
Without
I
making
feel
too
like-
many big changes here, you could eliminate the word teachers and put educators as a first role there. The other thing
You could take out teaching methods too, just put teaching, or just put methods, innovative methods.
or instructional methods, because admin do provide those methods in the way we've. I don't know exactly where, but I would love something, because of my results orientation, something about not just growth, but accomplishing what we're supposed to accomplish, proficiency in the grade level, if that makes sense. Because that is academic excellence. Everybody gets all the way there.
Okay, one of the things that I learned, I thought it was probably a year ago when we went to a conference, but this author says not only is academic excellence important, but academic confidence. Because if the child learns and teachers and parents are able to give them the confidence, which means that they take ownership for themselves as they learn, I think that that goes along with academic excellence. If they're not confident, they don't know how, but confidence comes step by step as they can see that they can succeed. So if every child is to learn, we take the child from where they are and then just help them grow. And it kind of makes the child responsible and the teacher helping the child. So I'd love you to read a book or watch a webinar or something, because I think that that's what all of us want to do, even with our own children, is that step by step they can gain that confidence.
Would that, because our next one is success is possible for every student, do you think that would that be a better fit under that one, or do you think it would go under academic? Well, yeah, I can see either one.
Yeah, because I just think that if teachers not only focus on excellence, but focus on children's confidence, it might change it just a little bit so that they're not so frustrated, because with confidence you take the child from where they are, and you want them to be excellent, but in order to get the excellence you've got to have and help them get that confidence that they need to see themselves succeed one step at a time.
I'd also like to see in these core values a little less professionalism and a little more passion. Like inject something into this that says we are relentless about what we're going to do, and that we're not just, well, we're responsible, so we better get this done. But like, we're not sleeping until this thing is done, that kind of something.
But I think to try and do that just makes them more frustrated, because your
You think it raises the expectation?
Right.
Like if
but
we say we're
how do they
relentless,
do
teachers are
that?
like, oh my gosh, I'm
Because
already
the child
tired.
eventually has to own that themselves. They have to, in order to make excellence. So how do teachers get the confidence in
Maybe
the child?
relentless is the wrong word,
I
but
like what
passion.
Michelle does. I just like the fact that step by step, if they have the notebook or whatever, that the child can say, okay, this is where I started, and then see how much growth so, yes, teachers, but this is what.
I like that, Connie, but I think it does come under maybe a little more success as possible for every student in the next section. I mean, they tie in really close, but I think that is a good point that, you know, we want to set them up to succeed in their own, you know, way. And that is confidence to know that they can achieve. So I like that.
So let's just look at this real fast, and then maybe this will kind of help us delineate the two. Success is possible for every student. That was also a theme that I heard as we went through this. It came back a lot. I did put equity up there with it just because as I started to define it, I thought, I think these kind of go hand in hand, and it's really hard to, it's not hard to separate them, but I think it would be redundant. So that's why I put equity there. And we can drop the equity, or we can just label it, I don't know how we want to label it. Anyway, but every student in our district has the ability to succeed. We acknowledge that success looks different for every student. This includes mastering concepts and skills, developing critical thinking and problem-solving abilities, and achieving their full potential. Each child has the right to realize that success and should be championed by every district employee. We believe that students should be offered many options to find the best pathways to success. We are successful when our students are. Does that fit in there? Does that cover it, do you feel like, Connie, or is there something else that we could add to that?
I like the word confidence, because I think that's what we're trying.
I agree. I think it belongs.
So, each child gains confidence by?
Pardon?
Self-efficacy?
But that big word is, I mean, it can be for adults. What do we say with, you know, with teachers? Achieving their full potential, or achieving confidence in their efforts, or confidence.
What do you think, Clark?
It's interesting because, I mean, confidence can be portrayed differently by different people, right? You could be one of the quietest people in the room and be extremely confident in your abilities and your capabilities. So, not sure how best to portray that here. Maybe it's something to the effect of each child has the right to achieve confidence and to realize that success, or their success, and should be, you know, I don't know, but I think it's a characteristic we want to champion. Which sentence we put it in is a great question still.
That's should before champion. You want to remove that where it just says each child has the right to realize that success and be championed?
Yeah, let's remove that should, because that's like the could.
Will be championed.
Yeah.
Well, it's more like an expectation rather than if possible, maybe.
Be champion, yeah, I like that.
They have the right.
Well, whether the kid realizes the success, it will be championed by every, I mean, like, that's something that the district employee is going to do. So that one, it should be, I think, a will be championed. But, wait, to realize the success and, each child has the right to realize that success and to be championed by every district employee. That's what it really ought to say.
Agreed.
We believe that students should be offered many options. We will offer students many options to find the best pathway to success.
Did you get that, Chris? Okay. The previous sentence, what if, with Connie, this includes mastering, we acknowledge that success looks different for every student. Every student will gain confidence or will have confidence when mastering concepts and skills. Do you think that would be a good place to put it?
Here's two ideas in that regard. We acknowledge that success and confidence looks different for every student. And/or every student in our district has the ability to succeed and be confident.
I like
that one, succeed and be confident.
What about, every student in our district has the ability to have confidence in success? Like Clark? And have confidence? Okay.
Will you repeat that one more time, just how you?
So every student in our district has the ability to succeed and have confidence. Is that what you suggested?
If we're going to remove words, I'd take out district, every employee. I don't want to take out the word district, but it implies, I don't want it to, I want every employee to realize this applies to them.
So it could just be everyone?
In the line above, when we were talking about should be every district employee, it should be just every employee. I don't want everybody going and saying, well, I'm not a district employee, so that I don't have to worry about championing children.
I think the non-district employees champion children.
You just never know.
That's fair. So take out district.
I agree with that.
Are you guys okay with every student in our district, or should we just say every student has the ability to succeed?
A little bit, I'm now saying to myself, I guess I want to propose the idea that maybe we don't necessarily want to limit this to students, and we want to say success is possible for everyone. Everyone in our district has the ability to succeed. I mean, we acknowledge that students, that success looks different for everyone.
So this
You
is,
know, I mean, and now it's also about our belief that our teachers and our educators can also succeed, which I also think is something that we value.
I like your last sentence.
It's kind of like, it's the modeling of the behavior that we want to create. Does that make sense?
yeah. Keeping in mind, though, that the value is that success is possible for every student.
I know, I'm talking about changing it.
Do we want to add?
I haven't voted on this, Nicole.
I showed it. I'm just. Do you want to add a second core or another core
I'm not
value?
sure I want it to be changed from student. I just, you know,
You're just
think
throwing
we
things
can,
out. I
we should
gotcha.
talk about it.
I gotcha. Okay.
Nicole wrote the last sentence there, which gets to your point, Julie.
Okay. I accept.
That's true.
Yeah. I think that pulls it together. You're right.
Do you think this addresses the equity that was such a strong core value with our community as well? Or do we want to define equity differently?
I don't want to. I think that success looks different for every student. Perfect. That's enough right there to me.
Okay. Okay, we'll pull that. So does that?
So are you going to take the word equity out?
Yeah.
Because I think that doesn't need to be in there.
Yeah, no, I'll pull it out. I just put it there to remind me, okay, look, this is, because equity was part of that really strong one.
Thank you for doing that.
So, all right, so then going back to the academic excellence, if Connie, does that satisfy your desire to see that in there, or do you want to put it in here too? What is your thoughts?
When teachers, I know we don't tell teachers what to do, but in order
Sure we do.
for children to get it, our teachers have to learn and know how to build confidence in their students. So it's the age-old, I don't know, you guys have probably heard that the teachers are there to teach, but they are not there to lecture necessarily. So somehow the students have to own in on their responsibility. So how do we get teachers to help the students go step by step? So I don't know if this, I mean, probably does.
I'm wondering
That's
if,
the only thing
yeah, if one of the
is-
last two paragraphs, I mean, I don't know what you guys want to leave in, but like, instead of saying academic excellence is demonstrated, educators encourage academic, what's your word? Academic confidence by helping students demonstrate a desire for knowledge, essential thinking skills, effective communication, solid study behavior, and the ability to adapt and explore.
Or have students gain confidence.
Or students gain academic confidence by, or even going down to the 21st century skills, critical thinking, creativity, effective communication, and collaboration? Or is that demonstrated, academic confidence is demonstrated when students gain skills such as critical thinking? Some things to ponder.
Your second paragraph there is defining academic excellence. And so maybe one of the definitions of academic excellence is academic confidence, like those other things. Desire for knowledge, essential thinking skills, effective communications, solid study behavior, academic confidence, and the ability to adapt and explore.
Nicole, where did these, we didn't write these definitions, right?
I wrote them.
You wrote them, okay. So I'll just chop these things up, is what you're saying? Just kidding. I just think it's really interesting to try to say how academic excellence is demonstrated, because I'm also like, I'm looking at that and like resilience and the ability to fail, and I mean, like, how do you capture it in its entirety without leaving out something that's pretty important?
And I guess that's why I threw that on the bottom, graduate of granite, because as I was writing that, and like I say, me and Google kind of defined it there, I thought of, that's part of the reason why we have those 21st century skills, or why we have the graduate of granite characteristics. Those were core to our parents when we went through that, remember? That the parents said, these are the skills that we want our kids to graduate with. So maybe instead of the 21st century skills, because they're very close, if you look at that, you know, a lot of them overlap with the graduate of granite characteristics, that we throw those in, I shouldn't say throw, that we put those in as being part of our definition of academic excellence, because that is what we want our graduates to have. So that's why I was suggesting that too, is maybe that's what we see.
Well, some of those things in that second paragraph are the graduate of granite characteristics, but some are not, am I right?
Yeah.
What about just putting in the characteristics in there?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, is
Oh,
do we want to put those in instead?
Yeah, I love that.
This is just 21st century skills is defined by, you know, there's different places that define 21st century skills. So.
I would suggest that we put students demonstrate academic excellence by, although, you know, they don't demonstrate academic excellence by resilience, by having resilience. That's not academic excellence. Like doing great, being really strong in the graduate of granite characteristics is not actually academic excellence.
No, but I think as we have academic excellence, they gain those other skills. They gain those 21st century skills, the graduate of granite characteristics, as they follow through, I mean, that's what we talked about, right? As they strive for that academic excellence, they're going to gain communication skills. They're going to gain, you know, reliability and all of those skills that we talked about within that.
In that case, I think that we're trying to say something different than the word demonstrated. I think that maybe is not saying what we want it to say there.
So maybe wordsmith those last two paragraphs together and pull in the graduate of granite characteristics. Is that what you're suggesting?
Well, I think I'm hearing, I thought you were suggesting it and that I was agreeing with it.
Okay.
But yes, I think what you're saying is we can say something like students achieve academic excellence. As students achieve academic
As students
excellence,
achieve.
they also acquire these other, or they also demonstrate these other skills. Or if we could say something, I don't know, I just want a little more passion in there. They also nail it in these other areas, but not like that.
Kim, did you have something?
Yeah, sorry, Ben, you look like you have a comment too, but to me, academic excellence, it feels like we're talking about here, academic excellence to us means we want everyone to meet standards. To me, academic excellence is supposed to convey something over and above that. Like, there's nothing in here about excelling, about achievement, and I feel like that's a big hole. If academic excellence is a core value, it should be talking about achievement and excelling and above and beyond, and not just the median for everybody. Does that make sense?
Like, would you like it to say something more about reaching a student being able to reach their capacity or their potential rather than just like, here's the standard we're trying to meet?
I would, and even to say above and beyond maybe what was expected, right?
Sorry. Oh, really? This is the board's
Well,
core values. They're not mine.
I was going to ask if, could we say something to the effect of above and beyond proficiency? Is that what you're getting at? Because I look at that middle paragraph, and that, to me, describes somebody that's going above and beyond. That's not describing somebody who is quite simply proficient. They've gone above that. So I'm trying to figure out how we capture that to wording.
And it may, I get what you're saying about the middle paragraph, but it's describing behaviors and skills rather than their mastery of the academic content. And that, to me, as we've discussed this over the year, is really the main reason we're here, is to teach them those, to provide them that academic foundation. This is focusing more on behaviors and competencies.
I'll put it a different way, but maybe we're saying the same thing. I think at its base level, academic excellence is proficiency, but we get great proficiency by these graduate of granite characteristics as defined by our parents, but there's some other skills there as well, right? So we want our students to demonstrate academic excellence. We want them to have high proficiency. We want them to know and master the skills, but what helps them get there is, I think, what we're trying to define. And I don't know if that's what we're intending to do, but that's what it feels like.
But I think your point is well said, and you used a phrase that I think we could add to that middle paragraph, which is mastery of content. What if that was the very first item that academic excellence is demonstrated by, first and foremost, mastery of content, then a desire of knowledge and all those other characteristics, but first and foremost, the mastery of the content.
I like that.
I will just add, I like the mastery of content, everything that's been spoken of right now. I do feel like it's hard to take out academic excellence and put it on its own little island without realizing these soft skills and the behavior components that are in this in order to reach that academic excellence. So that is our goal, but some of the vehicles to get to there is we need kids dependable and in class. We need kids to communicate and participate in class, because that's going to drive their own mastery of content eventually to reach that academic excellence. So I think it's really hard to pull out academic excellence on its own without these characteristics, these soft skills being in the same conversation.
You said better what I was trying to explain, which is the graduate of granite characteristics help us achieve academic excellence. They, in and of themselves, are not academic excellence.
I also just, I mean, I just keep thinking about one of my kids who like totally mastered the content, not dependable at all in that class. You know what I mean? And so I'm not sure that I want to say that dependability was a stepping stone to the mastery, but I think that you're right. There's some sort of connection. I just want to make sure it isn't like we had to go through these characteristics in order to achieve the academic excellence, because I'm not sure that's what we're really aiming at. But I do think we want to convey that there's a connection there and that it's all part of the learning that they're doing there. I don't know. But I do love this mastery of content idea. And also, I think, Ben, will you just say what you said again, that it's not that it is mastery?
Graduative granite characteristics are not in and of themselves academic excellence. They are the vehicle that help drive, get us to academic excellence. That doesn't mean a kid can't master a skill without those characteristics. You've just indicated in as much. But they can help facilitate that for most students. But let's be clear also, our graduate of granite characteristics do not encompass every vehicle that can help drive academic excellence either.
But also, I think we can say, if a student demonstrates the characteristics of graduate of granite, we believe they will achieve academic excellence.
I believe that.
I think that's a fair thing to say.
And what's important about that is our parents did come up with those characteristics. And ultimately, the student is demonstrating those skills. No matter what their level of proficiency, a parent's going to say, thank you. But we still want them to demonstrate high proficiency at the same time.
Well, and high proficiency doesn't just happen in a bubble. I mean, you can be the smartest person in the world, but if you can't communicate well, or if you can't, if you don't have those other soft skills, as you're saying, it's useless. It's not very, I shouldn't say useless, but it's not as useful. We have to be able to do that. Okay, did we get all that, Chris? You wrote fast? All right. The last one was integrity. I went through some of the other ones that we talked about, but I think, I can't remember if it was at the parent meetings, but they said, well, isn't honesty part of integrity? Isn't trustworthiness part of integrity? Isn't respect? So I just kind of went and captured some of those other ones that we had talked about and that were very much part of what they valued in the core values, but felt like it maybe fell under integrity as well. So that's where I kind of got some of these. We value honesty, openness, responsibility, accountability, trustworthiness, patience, and respect. We expect students and employees to show integrity in their work and in their treatment of others. It's pretty straightforward. Go ahead, Julie.
I'm just trying to think of like how, one of the things that I would love to see is a sense that we believe that people have good intent, that people come from a place of good intentions. Because I feel like that's part of integrity, and I think that I think that we have a culture problem that kind of sometimes evokes fear in some people. And if they knew that we were going to approach that problem with a sense that we all believe that we all have good intentions and that we're all have a common goal, I think that could help with some of that problem. And so I think I'm looking for, is there a place for that here? And maybe I guess I'm also looking for like the word dignity. I just looked up the dignity index. Like, can I somehow put something from the dignity index in here that says we treat people with dignity and that's part of having integrity? I don't know, just now somebody do something with that or don't.
Is that part of the respect part, that we value respect and we expect students and employees to show integrity? Is that part of that? Do you feel like, or do you want something different than that?
I guess I guess one thing that I really feel like is that I'm speaking as I'm thinking here, okay? I think that in the education world especially, we tend to use the same words over and over. And therefore, they lose their meaning. And I think that I'm having an instinct right now that I want to say it in a different way, and I don't want to use all the same words that everybody else uses, or it's just the same black and white piece of paper for everyone. I want to say it in a way that makes somebody go, oh, that's different, like that. Because when I see the words responsibility, respect, trustworthy, I just go, yep, honesty, trustworthy, whatever. But if you said to me, we believe in telling the truth, I would pay more attention because so for me, I guess I'm English teaching this, that I just feel like I'm thinking about my reader and I'm thinking that they aren't going to care about this. That's what I'm thinking. And I want it to be something that they go, oh, I read this and I got the meaning. But maybe that's my own reaction, and that's not the same as everybody's reaction.
Any other thoughts on that?
I think we could word it so it's more impactful. I think that's what you're trying to say, maybe more impactful, so when people read it, it means something more instead of just, like you said, flat words on a page.
It doesn't sound like a soundbite when you say it that way. It invokes some emotion.
I want people to feel emotion when they read these values, all of them, which is why I say I would like to inject passion into them because I want people to say, yes, it's not like just saying, here's our laundry list. I don't want to say, we want to buy healthy food. I want it to say, we want you to live the healthiest life so that you can enjoy whatever. I want it to be a rallying cry in some ways. That might be a little too much, but you know what I'm saying. I want somebody to say, yeah, I totally get behind that.
So if we took each of those words and maybe defined them a little bit further or explained them a little bit more, we value honest work and honest dealings with others. Do you know what I mean?
I'm thinking
we can
things like
it later, but do you want to?
We tell the truth and accept accountability for our actions. We have conversations where we listen to each other and consider each other's point of view. I'm trying to think of like something instead of openness. We
Julie,
treat each other instead of respect. We treat each other as if we're all doing our best.
Can I suggest that you take this then and write out a sample of what you would like to see instead?
Yeah,
And then
can
let
I
us-
try to inject passion in the other ones too?
No.
Do you want me to just put in here, Julie will write?
Yes.
And we'll look at
Good
it?
luck, Julie. That's what you should put.
Good luck, Julie.
Maybe odds be ever in your favor.
Yes, I will.
Okay, yeah.
I would just caution as we go through these, the longer we make them, the more irrelevant they become. So,
I agree, and I don't think it needs all those things. For example, here, I don't think we need all of those things in there either.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, there can be some
trustworthiness,
simplifying-
respect, honesty.
combination almost of those.
I completely
And it's
agree
not
with
that they
you.
become irrelevant, I just think the longer something is, then you're reading it and you're like, what is this for? And then by the time you've read all the core values, you don't remember what the first one was. And I think it can have a little bit more impact if it's more concise.
But I also think the way she was saying it is inviting to read rather than this. That's not inviting.
Are you calling me boring, Connie?
I guess so.
Second.
We thank you for your effort, Nicole.
Thanks. I'm just kidding, Connie. It's okay.
It was like 11 o'clock at night by the time I got to this one, so, no.
Thank you for doing that, too.
Yeah, my creativity was gone by the time I got to integrity. Yeah, so, yeah, and that's fair, Julie, and I appreciate that. I do, yeah, going back to what Karen said, I tried to keep it on that one paragraph, and that's why I suggested the first paragraph, but then I added those other two just to kind of give us an idea, is there anything else we wanted to add? So I would like to keep it to a paragraph at the most, not make it go on and on, because I think, yeah.
I think
and-
more than 2 sentences is
Yeah.
too much.
Which is really where we
One
tried
is
to keep
best.
it with our mission and our vision. Remember, we kept that very, very short and concise because we wanted to keep it there.
Do
So
you agree with that, Karen? Yeah. 2 sentences is most.
2 sentences, maybe 3 at the most.
I can write a really long sentence. I'm so good at
Don't write run-on
punctuation.
sentences either.
No run-on sentences. You're an English teacher.
I'll use
Okay.
every punctuation mark known to
So-
mankind.
So I'll get the notes from Chris, and then we'll kind of figure out and revamp it, and I'll send it out to you guys. And if anybody has any others that they want to add, let's talk about it. As I read things, if you remember, it was kind of a keep them simple, keep it to 3 or 4 core values that you want to base your stuff on. So I figured this was it, unless somebody has something else that they wanted to add. There's something that they felt passionate about. That's it.
I was thinking about it today that I don't think we put anything in there about that we value that we're part of a bigger, broader community of lawmakers who impact us, of parents, of taxpayers, of, I'm not sure what we value about that. Like, what do you say? We value that we are a part of it? Is that all you say? I'm not sure, but I think, especially having that legislator luncheon the other day, it really made me mindful of the idea that we are not working in a silo and that we have to figure out how to utilize the entire community to work for kids, or to rally the entire community to work for kids, if you will. I don't know where to put that in here because I'm not sure that it holds the same weight as the other values, but I don't know.
Can we somehow add it into here that each child has the right to realize the success and be championed by every employee and our community? Because I had to think about that as I was writing something, as like, where do we fit community in here? Because I feel like it doesn't just, I put something in as far as parents, but I'm like, it's more than just parents though. It's grandparents, it's aunts and uncles, it's our community as a whole that we work together.
I like putting it in that context.
Somewhere in there.
The whole community believes that success is possible for every student. I think it's a good context.
Okay. Let's see what we can work into there. All right. We good? Okay, we'll bring it back when we have
Can you
things
show
worked
the
out.
core values again, the 4 of them? Yeah. So did we make equity its own? 'Cause
No,
we didn't
remember
say
I said that
equity.
it was like, I don't know that, it's kind of hard to pull that out from success is possible for every student. So I kind of just built that into that one, that every child has the right to realize that success and be.
So then we really have 3 values. Here's just a 4th idea for a value. That we believe that people who are most capable of making the best decision for the child are the people who are closest to the child. It's basically a local control value. What do you think about that? Because there are some decisions that are best made on the district level, but I think that we do try to push local control, and that's something that I think this board has seemed to value local control, and I'd love to be able to say that.
I think we value
If
it,
it
but we
didn't
didn't.
tie our hands.
Yeah,
it isn't necessarily part of our mission statement and our vision statement, it's something that fuels that, and it wasn't necessarily something that came up, not that we don't value it, but that I think the idea of incorporating community into that, in that it encompasses our parents as well, I think that is an important piece to it. I guess we could look at putting something in this one that, you know, I don't know, I'm not sure.
Well,
what
we
to do
don't
about it.
have to like, you know, make sure that every idea that I have is somewhere in here. That's fine. I mean, but I think we can talk about the ideas. I don't feel obligated, so.
We can always revise these too.
I think it's worth it to just think about some of the, you know how I am. I like to think about all the things. Not that I put it out there because I think it's right.
That's fair. Okay. All right. I'm going to suggest that we take a quick 5-minute break while Luke comes and changes the slide deck over. Motion to saunter.
Saunter. Let's saunter.
Started again. This is what we started in the summertime during our retreat. Can I suggest that, I'm going to go over the ones even that we did during the summer because I think we've forgotten. But can I suggest that we all take either a paper or on your notepad? Julie has to listen to this because she's sorry. Will you guys take notes on your notepads or on your iPad or wherever it is as we go through this? Because in the end, we'd like to maybe set some board goals. And just as a reminder, the ones that are, I'm going to skip down. The ones that are in the turquoise are the ones where we either haven't improved or that we're still obviously struggling on as far as the board ourselves from our point of view. So just thinking which ones and where we would like to maybe have some board goals and set a couple board goals at the end of this. So this is the board evaluation that we all took in the summer in June. We did this. This is based on the one that USBA provides us. And I did take the questions from last year and how we answered them and then compared them to this year. So just as a reminder, board members participate in school board and education-related training and professional development available through conferences, conventions, workshops, online training, and selected readings. So we rated ourselves proficient or highly proficient most of the time, approaching proficient, one person. I did not update the numbers on this, just so you know, but I think I did have one more response in addition in the end. Board members can clearly articulate vision, mission, and goals of the district. I think we're getting better on that. Before we had approaching, but since we have set a mission and vision, I think we're all able to articulate that better. If there's any that you want me to stop on, we can discuss. I'm happy to. The board annually evaluates its performance in fulfilling the board's duties, responsibilities, and the board's ability to work as a team. That's what we're doing now. This is the one that was a little bit different. The board uses results of board evaluation to view, discuss, and implement board goals. I don't know that we set board goals last year when we went through this. So that's where we're at here, right? The board uses data and reports in assessing progress, identifying areas needing improvement, and refining the district's strategic plan. Again, we're kind of approaching on that was our biggest one there. The board conducts comprehensive orientation to familiarize new board members with their responsibilities on the board. I think we got I think the reason why I highlighted that one was just because if there is problems with that, that is up to board leadership. And I know with Karen, we talked to people, Karen and I, when people were, I think Julian Clark, right? Was that? I can't remember.
I know we met with Kim.
Kim.
I just had a lot of conversations on the phone with Julie. Right, Jules?
I miss you, Karen.
We need a chat.
So anyway, whoever said emerging, I'm not going to call you out now and say you have to tell us. But if there are problems, please let us know, myself and Chris, because we're in that position now. And if we do have that, somebody else may need to do it in January. Who knows? So, but if there is something that needs to change there, whoever said emerging, please let us know and we'll certainly rectify that. But I think that is probably something that board leadership needs to be responsible for. And then these were the comments. I'm not going to read them. You guys are going to read them. As far as, I don't know if we want to do a goal for every section that we have. I did notice that somebody said we could do better with reading as well as online training. That was not me. I'm going to point that out. But, and somebody said we don't have any board goals that I know of, so let's create some.
I don't know, somebody brought up the strategic plan. That was something that we scored low on. Does anybody have any thoughts as far as that, or any goals that we'd like to see as a board coming off of this section? Superintendent?
I would be very open to, as kind of Mitch familiarizes himself with the strategic plan, we reimagine DISC, maybe in a few months doing a study session surrounding what our efforts look like with the strategic plan. We'd also had a conversation I wanted to make you aware of, so I'll take the opportunity. We're trying to create a scorecard where we can regularly report, I'm thinking probably every other month, to make these meetings more data focused as it relates to the strategic goals. And then the board can, I think at that point in time, be able to put some thought into and provide meaningful feedback in terms of what they would like to see in the strategic plan, and provide meaningful feedback, if that makes sense.
Will you spell out DISC for our listeners?
Yes, District Improvement Steering Committee, but that name's going to change. And we want it more student or school focused, so that when people come to that meeting, they know what we're really there to do and how much we're spending a lot of time on that. So we want to make sure that we're getting we're using everybody's time to the maximum effectiveness, if that makes sense. So our chief of staff has been working to analyze that, and we've been looking at some data, and up until this point in time, it's been effective in terms of analyzing and measuring our strategic goals. So I don't want to diminish what's been done in the past, but how do we then take that to the next level? And that was actually one thing that Dr. Nye expressed to me as he was kind of going out the door, exit interview, was these were some of the things that he was working on, and I was aware of that already based on my previous work and position.
Before you get to this slide, as I was looking through these slides, the thing that I wrote down is that I would like to set a goal about how we are looking at data. I feel like I still feel unsatisfied that when I make a decision, I understand all the facets of it. Now, I know I can't understand it the way I could if I were a PhD in this or something, you know. I'm not asking for that, but I want to be able to understand. I feel sometimes like I get the information that I get in a study session is, this is why we think you should do this. But I want to understand what are the arguments against it as well. What are the costs associated with it? What are some other things that we could have done, and why did we choose not to do those things? So a few people think we ought to do this, but most of us think this other thing. I mean, I just feel like I often worry that I'm just getting a sales pitch. And that's not what I think is intended by any means.
Is that something, though, that we can translate into a goal from us, or is that more of a, hey, we would like to have this better refined from our presenters?
Yes, I think so, because I think that we get what we demand. And so I think if we set a standard of what information we receive, then we will receive that, because our staff is so good at getting us what we ask for. So I think that would be about us choosing to ask for it. I think they're giving us what we ask for now. And I think I'm suggesting that we refine that. And I'm not exactly sure, since I'm not what I would call an academic, I'm not exactly sure what information I'm looking for. I would assume that this first bullet point came from me because I agree with all of it and it sounds like my voice. But so the deal about more readings about best practices, I think maybe that kind of, you know, if I were doing the cell phone policy and I got a couple of articles that I could read to help me understand why we came to this as the best practice, you know what I mean? Because I'm assuming that the experts in our area are basing their recommendations off research and best practices. I'd love to also be able to see some of that. think that's what I'm saying. And if they aren't, they should be. So I don't think I'm asking too much to make sure that somebody has the article that they can send me, you know? Because they should know where that information came from. They should be able to back up why they think we ought to do that. And it should be nothing but sending a link to me, you know?
I'm just not sure how that translates to a goal for us, like how we, like what steps we take or what.
I have suggested before that we create, I can't remember who I talked about it with, maybe just with Dr. Nye, maybe with you. I think I did send an email to you about it actually, but we didn't discuss it. That we create kind of a rubric of how, you know, what information we want to know when we get proposed policy or proposed changes of procedure or whatever is coming across our way.
Okay, so that could be a goal then, create a rubric for standardized procedure in when we are passing a policy or a procedure, some sort of procedure.
In fact, I think that one of the things that came out of that email or rubric that I created at one point and shared was that now every single presentation that we get has a link to the graduate of Granite and how this presentation is going to link back to our mission and vision. That was one of the things in my thing, and I saw that start happening immediately after I sent that email. So there were things like that. I hope that I can find that. But if not, it doesn't matter. It doesn't need to come from me. It should come from all of us anyway, you know. But maybe that could be a starting point if we decided to make this a goal. If I'm also the only person who feels this way, I get that too. I'm on the team, okay?
So I just want to be clear. So you're saying as a board goal, maybe we need some more information when we get our policies or proposals or whatever so that we can make more informed decisions, or we have background information on what we're voting for with some links and some other data points so we can just have that at our fingertips? Or are you asking just for more upfront information?
Well, for example, with the cell phone policy, I did my own research. I know Kim does her own research all the time. When we were looking at watches or not, I'm just going to be honest, that was just going and getting feedback and guessing that that was the right decision. I didn't look at any actual data and this is new, but when I was looking at the watch situation, I didn't look at any data or best practices. I also am not convinced that there is any data or best practice about that decision, but people bring us stuff and then we adapt it, and everybody kind of has to just go with what we vote for. But if we are informed as we make those adaptations, those policies are better.
Well, I would say as far as the cell phone, I think the district did their job. I got an email and it had, I'm not kidding, 20 links to different articles. I don't know if I was the only board member that cozied out. I clicked on every one of them. It was articles, they were arguments for, they were arguments against, they were research projects.
I must have missed it. I really don't remember.
And so I think a little bit what you're saying, in at least that instance, is being done. Because there was a lot of information to sort through. I remember I had it all pulled up on my laptop and I would just X out of them as soon as I had to read that article so I could keep track of which ones I had studied and which ones I didn't, so. Just as far as that goes.
If that's something the board wants to establish as one of its goals, I think we would appreciate, in terms of ELT, some sort of clarification in terms of a rubric or some very specific things that we can do as we present action items. And I'm applying that to more than just policies, because what I hear you saying is that as we look to adapt and accept action on a PAC item, for instance, we're coming back with a lot of data and research and community engagement surveys, feedback. We just provided all the feedback from on the curriculum adoption we just had, right? I would like to know and understand what very concise items that the board's expectations would be. And then I think we can work to create a process by which we can collate that information in advance for the board. I don't think that's a problem. I would just want to be very clear about what those items are. We just went through this process and we're fine-tuning it in some of our other meetings to make sure that we're, again, using everybody's time to maximize efficiency and effectiveness. And so we've restricted, we did that with our recognitions. Now there's a little handout that everybody gets. So I would just want to create a process by which we create those presentations for action items, any sort of action item, policy adoption or otherwise.
And I appreciate that. The one thing that I'm grateful for is our district is large enough that so much can be done without us having to do all the research. And I'm truly grateful for that. So I think if it's a summary of what we found with links that we could go to or something, I think we could get a rubric of something without us having to do all of the work and still make it so that we can understand the why behind this, that it's brought to us.
Could I speak to the other comment? I meant to make a comment on this before on my previous comment. The board does not create the district strategic plan. You hire a superintendent, you tell us what your goals are, and that is the basis for which the superintendent and I created our strategic goals and measures. We have found then we wanted to get some additional input and feedback on that plan. And I guess I was trying to convey that it would be appropriate for this body also to provide feedback on that plan to make sure that the district is in fact focusing on the things that the Board of Education would like us to. And so we'd be happy to create that process, create reporting mechanisms. In all of our meetings, we're trying to make sure that we're spending time focused on things that matter. And a lot of that is data things, data reports and analysis, but that's a quantitative piece, and we also need qualitative pieces of information as well and evidences. So we just want to make sure we're balancing that, but at the same time, we can and should be able to measure most things. And it would be my goal to measure everything if possible, but I don't think that's possible in every situation. But I'll just put that back out there that, again, we're looking at some options to be able to collect and collate feedback from the board to ensure that the district is focusing on the things that the board would like us to.
How do you all feel about a goal to create a rubric for any action item or any item that's brought to the board so that we have adequate data as we analyze that? Is that a?
I get the sense that I don't feel like there is like a lot of support or feeling that there is need for what I'm talking about, but I would be happy to find whatever it was that I put together long ago and just send it around, because I don't think that I'm articulating my ideas very well here. But and then if we wanted to do something, then we should. And we can, how does that sound to move forward?
Yeah.
I don't think we should set a goal that's important to one person.
Yeah, that's why I'm trying to see if
Yeah.
this is important to more than one. Okay. Go ahead, Kim.
Just going to say, I mean, I support the concept of having data. I just, from my perspective, the data needs to be both sides, right? Not just the data that supports what we're trying to do,
This is exactly what I'm saying.
but the data
Yeah.
that shows the opposite viewpoint.
I knew we were in agreement. We've had
We are.
conversations about that before, yeah.
And again, I don't disagree. I'm just saying I don't know that that's a board goal that we need to make. That's a directive that we need to give that says we need.
But we can have a goal to set a directive.
We're giving him a directive right now.
I think that's right. I think that's right. I don't know that we need something
As a goal.
codified here as a goal, so to speak. But, and I think we would all certainly agree that we want to be always informed by as much data as possible. Not every situation lends itself to empirical data. I think it's a little bit of a cultural buzzword that we love to throw around, that we need to make these data-informed decisions. Well, sometimes that, a certain issue can be conducive to collecting data, other times it cannot. And it's, we talk about data all the time in our meetings, but oftentimes we're not analyzing the same set of data. We're trying to make comparisons and make judgments, and it's completely improper because the measurements are not consistent, the data is not consistent, and we all want to, raise our hands and say, we're going to use data to make our decisions, and that's absolutely an objective that we should have, but I think that's too easily falling into a trap that everything can be a data-informed decision. There's more to it than that.
Which is, I mean.
concur with that, in education
yeah.
especially.
Taking us back to those of us who were sitting here during COVID, it was very hard to make a data-informed decision during that because there wasn't data. So I think I agree, let's give a directive, let's work on maybe something, Julie, that's more specific so that we have something there specific. I don't disagree that we need to see both sides, but I think let's give that as a directive, not as a board goal. Did you have something else, Superintendent? Okay. Like I said, we don't have to set a goal in every area, so let's move on. We can always come back. This is more about how we do with advocacy and I believe, with our citizenry. The board understands the importance of educated citizenry and actively advocates for public education. The board believes that all children can learn and works for high-quality education for every child. The board formally and regularly communicates to stakeholders and the strategic plan, desired culture, and improvement needs. That was the one where nobody rated us as highly proficient. This one also, the board formally and regularly communicates to stakeholders, student performance goals, progress towards goals, and results outcomes. The board communicates with community using forums, groups, Todd, you're in the way. Social media, I assume, or other vehicles to advocate for their school and district. Procedures agreed upon by the board and the superintendent. That one seemed to be okay. Board members advocate to the legislators. I noticed that this one we went higher. I appreciated that everybody came to legislative day on the Hill last year, and I think we all have stepped up in that. The board advocates for and supports public education policies on the national and state level that align with district mission, vision, and goals. And then these were the comments. I really love working with the board, people who just, okay, I'm not gonna read those. Anyway. So any thoughts on those ones? The two, like I say, had to do, and so this is where I thought maybe we wanted to set a goal as far as communicating with stakeholders. If there's something that we're not doing or something that we see that needs to improve, where is that and what do we need to do, and maybe set a goal in that respect. That was where we had our lowest.
I think it's hard unless it's done locally in the schools. I mean, we send out things as I watch out my window and watch my neighbor throw everything in the trash. That comes in the mail, so it's pretty difficult. I mean, what do we do as a board? The district tries so hard to get things to the larger community.
I don't know if you guys, sorry. I just was going to say, I don't know if you remember marking this. I don't know who marked it, and I honestly don't even know where I marked it, but I don't know if it's that we're not communicating to stakeholders. Is it that we're not communicating these specific things to stakeholders? Or is it that we're not, I'm not sure if you guys remember what it is or where you think we need to improve on this. So that's just my question to you.
I don't necessarily remember how I responded to these questions, but when I look at communication with stakeholders, my big frustration is, or I guess what I would suggest to this group is that we look at an improved way of getting feedback from teachers about the policies or otherwise that we're enacting or working on. And it's because I totally appreciate, we have a great relationship with GEA, and those guys are so active. And one thing I've talked about with Michelle and Jessica already is that it's not just about how do teachers feel, support or not support. It's that teachers kind of give you the nuanced things that help you improve the policy. So they might support it, but if you kind of got feedback from more people, they might be able to say, but if you tweak this, it could fix something, or or like, how does this work for my kid in this class who whatever. So I'm not necessarily looking for an overarching, how do teachers feel? I'm looking for, can they add value to help us improve whatever we're doing with their individualized feedback that you can't get from the organization as a whole. So for me, this is where I think we're weak when it comes to communicating with stakeholders. I think that we have a lot to, I think we would all like to improve on the communication with our community at large. I'm not sure any of us knows how to do that. And so I'm not sure that I want to set that as a goal until I have some plan. I think we're doing everything we know how to do. So that's why while I see that people aren't feeling like they're getting the message, I also am like, well, I don't know what else to do on that.
That was going to be my hesitation too, because I have the same exact concern. I would love to communicate with my community better to them, the things that we're doing and working on. They could also just listen to every board meeting. We know that doesn't happen. So I have the same concern. I don't have an answer to it. Maybe the goal is to come up with some potential ideas for communication.
Go to some professional development or something like that about communication.
That's a tough one because we do publish a board report after every board meeting. It's available on demand.
That's what I'm saying.
So I hear what both you're saying, but.
And at what point are you now pulling resources from kids so that you can communicate more and more and in 30,000 ways and, or whatever?
Well, and the board report is going out. It's not necessarily getting feedback in. So they'll get the board report, but then we're not getting feedback on that. So I don't know how we'd close that gap to say, what did you think about our board meeting? I don't know how we would do that.
But ultimately, does it really change our approach that in order to gain that feedback, we have to be in our schools?
Yeah.
That's the way to gain that feedback and
More
be there
individually.
constantly. Yes, and at every level, talking to all stakeholders.
I also think there's some unconventional ways. One of my favorite things, and I think this was a year or two ago, Ben, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong on the timing, but all the signs of I love my public school. And I was headed to Frost for a visit, and I saw so many, and they said outperformed, such and such a school. It was a charter. And so so maybe for the broader community at least, for those that don't have kids anymore in school, or their grandkids, whatever, these little teeny messages of, I love my school. It's like, oh yeah, Robert Frost, that's my community building in my neighborhood, right? And oh, they're doing well enough to outperform this other school. Things must be really going well at that school. So I'm just thinking, are there other ways like this that can grab the broader community attention to remind them, number one, there is a school in your neighborhood. Number two, they are doing well and they're outperforming. And three, that there's a lot of neighborhood pride in that school. And that they're proud of their results, they're proud of their kids, they're proud of the families that live there. So are there other things, and I'm not discounting your teacher feedback, I'm just saying adding to the broader community thing, are there some more unconventional fun ways? This is yard signs, which I know they cost money, but they don't cost millions of dollars of our support. So anyway, just to throw that in, that was something that really resonated in one of my particular neighborhood schools.
So do you like that as a goal that we come up with some additional ways to communicate with our stakeholders as a board? And maybe we can think on it, because I think, Kim, what you're saying is, Kim and Julie, is, very true. We want to make sure that we're doing that. How do we do that?
So maybe we can make a goal that by such and such a time that we have come up with some new ideas. And that could involve some action steps, like have some really strong conversations with GEA about how we could get more information. Maybe it's about having conversations with our community councils about how's the best way to communicate. I'm just like thinking off the cuff here, right? But if we had some action steps and then we knew that we needed to do this by this specific day and we all kind of are engaged in the effort, we might come up with some good ideas. Maybe one of us reaches out to other board members, other school boards, and how are you communicating? Professional development.
I know we talked about this kind of, because I think even changing just the form of, or not the form, but the nature of the communication, because we talked about kindergarten, and we've got to get our parents to register their kids for kindergarten early so that we have that count and we're not left with huge kindergarten classes because we didn't have a count early enough. And communicating that the right way, hey, teacher, or maybe having, I know we talked about a school who had them come in and do a kindergarten get to know you day or whatever, having maybe becoming creative like that we have. It's not just this stuff, but it's all of these things that we need to do, maybe a different approach at and see what is effective.
Well, and we have some schools doing that, like that. I think you're referencing Whittier Elementary did a kindergarten signing day in my area. So they had the kindergarten, and this was in the spring before school got out. They came in and signed that they were going to go to Whittier and they were going to graduate this year, and it was really fun. So even things like that in our schools make it welcoming and kind of put the word out there, oh, it's kindergarten registration. So, and to Karen's point, the yard signs, if our schools had signs that said, I saw a few in my neighborhoods that said kindergarten registration happening now, but not every school had that. So if it was more uniform through our schools of some advertising maybe,
okay,
things like that.
Our principals are great resources on this.
They are.
Like they've all thought of different things and tried everything.
So is the attempt of the goal to enhance that level of communication? Because I guess my concern would be, and I'm presenting this to you, what is the board's concerns about what they feel needs to be communicated and to who? And then I think you let us kind of work through the details to identify what strategies would be best and then report that back to you, right? We do have a number of things that we're working on, and a lot of that is funding dependent. But there are low-cost ways to do some of those things. So I guess if you're looking to create a goal surrounding this, I would appreciate knowing what specific things that you would want to make sure that we're communicating effectively. We've got regularly communicates to stakeholders, strategic plan, desired culture, and improvement needs. I think we do an excellent job. We do a couple of mailers to go to our core stakeholders a year. And those are usually construction updates, budget information, and strategic plan is included in that, with a solicitation to volunteer in our schools with a place for them to provide feedback. I would also caution and remind the board that at this level, generally people only communicate when they're angry about something. So we did a ton of, solicited a ton of feedback as part of our process with respect to the cell phone policy. We went out, we did some outreach, some additional, so you would have a lot of research in terms of survey work that was done in advance of making some decisions on that. I think that could be part of that goal, right? As we adopt policies, we'd like to make sure there's a component of feedback from key stakeholders for whom that policy would impact. Can you see how that would be easier for us to then translate and turn that into something that we can produce on the back end? I'm happy Luke's on the other side of that wall, but I know he's smiling and nodding his head right now because we have a Gantt chart that shows our regular communication strategies throughout the year. It's open enrollment time. I was just sending an email out earlier on getting data for our high turnover populations where we see a significant amount of loss of students because of open enrollment permits. So we're going to allocate a portion of budget to be able to prop up those schools, highlight their successes, et cetera, et cetera. That's already built into our processes and procedures. So I guess what I would like clarification on, just to emphasize this, is what type of communication we're doing. I don't mind asking other districts either, but I'm seeing a distinction between a school level communication, a district level communication, and what the board would like to specifically communicate, so it is coming from the Board of Education. Does that make sense?
So Chris, will you write down so that we can maybe further flesh this out, that that we ask board members to think about this? What in particular with the in regards to communication we feel needs to improve? What can we do as a board to either support that, or where are we falling, what do we need to see? Is it our desire to see, something, just what it is that we're trying to address here? I think a good goal for this could be, though, that as board members, in order to communicate and to gain feedback from our stakeholders, I think Clark actually spoke about it, that we are making efforts to be in our schools and to be involved in our communities so that we understand the needs of our specific communities and the needs of our specific schools. And I would suggest that would be something that we can do as a board, because it's true, a lot of this does go back to Ben and his team, so.
I just really want to acknowledge how thankful I am for the information that we're getting from the district, because that really helps me to make sure I attend those things that are within the district. And we've certainly taken a step up, maybe even a giant step up, in being informed that I have never had before. So I truly am grateful.
Hear, hear.
And I tell people all the time how grateful I am to get the information, so thank you.
Okay, we'll flesh that out later and kind of just refine these. This one, and this might, I apologize, I should have gone through the headings and added them in, but this one I believe has to also do with community and the culture that's here. The board promotes interactions with the community to foster a culture which ideas are sought, heard, valued, and are based on collaborative, I don't know what that word is, of research and data. Anyway, this one was interesting to me because I feel like sometimes, though, we get feedback that people are not heard, maybe, but we all rated ourselves proficient or highly proficient on this. So just a thought there. The board uses committees to collaborate on student achievement, best practices, etc. I think we all, obviously not all of us, somebody felt that we were just emerging on this and approaching. Again, I would suggest that not to be like, if you felt like that, then here's the problem. But, what can we improve? I think that is something that can be addressed if there's something specific that you're thinking of. Did you have a comment on that, Connie?
I just think, how often do we need this? I don't know. It's a lot of work to do some, to get community and all this.
Yeah.
Can we set a time as to how often we want to get feedback like that?
Well, and I think we use our district community council very strategically in that way, that we do collect feedback. We often collect feedback from our school community councils, and we do have
we do have a lot of committees that involve parents. So I think I probably rated us on highly proficient on that. But again, I'm not saying that we are, I'm suggesting that if you guys see something specific there that we are missing, then let's have a chat about it.
But how much is given to the rest of the board? If you sit on a committee and you get that, do we get the information too? So that.
Is that maybe the question of it? And I think that's the idea of board books. Like, I mean, we had our audit committee meeting, and that is on board books. Are we all taking the opportunity to go look? I know the budget committee meeting notes are on there. I think Joe put law and policy on there as well.
Law and policy isn't on there yet, but,
Isn't it? Okay.
or at least it wasn't as of our meeting yesterday. But also, I just opened a USBA, so my next meeting from USBA will be on there, and also an evaluation committee. I got an evaluation committee thing too. We just haven't had those since we started those, but I think that would be I mean, we're already kind of on track to do that, but that might be an interesting goal to make sure that we faithfully put those in and faithfully look at them, right?
Is that what you're asking?
That's good.
No, I want to make sure is that,
Because the only thing I'm saying is, how do I mean, I am computer totally illiterate, totally, I would admit. So if you put something on, shoot me an email so I know that it's there.
Okay.
I mean, other than that, it's like, I don't know that it's there and I don't go to it.
and that brings up a good question, because we usually get an email when you post to board books, but like we didn't get one for the audit committee today, and it was like, oh, and so I think it's a setting, so we can make sure that we put that on the setting, or just send a text or an email. That's fair. Yeah, for sure. Okay. The board provides an opportunity for stakeholders such as staff, students, parents, and community members to address the board. I think we changed our policy, and so we made sure that we had that open. We also have added that and made sure that we do that at every open board meeting. The board has an effective process for responding to questions, concerns, comments, and feedback from citizens. This is one that I highlighted just because, while I think we do pretty well with it, we've never had a formal, this is how we're going to do it. I think we've all just kind of, well, if they're in our area, but then there's been a couple of those that I thought they were in Julie's area. Oh, they're not in Julie's area. They're in my area. I didn't realize that. So I don't know if we want to talk about that and just have a consistent way. So any thoughts on that?
I think in our board handbook, it kind of states how to do that, to respond to concerns and comments, and how to, if I remember right, I don't have my handbook with me, but I'm pretty sure it's in the handbook, and so if we refer to that when we can't remember what we're supposed to do, or, be that link to get that information to the right person, or questions to the right person in the district.
I guess just like when we get patron concerns, I know there's some districts that say, okay, that's the vice president will always answer patron concerns.
Or like an assignment?
As an assignment. Or some boards say, I don't know. It varies by board, and I know we have defined that as far as this is how we address patron concerns, but not necessarily who addresses patron concerns. And I know, I have addressed patron concerns when it's been something that is a district decision. There are certain ones that I have responded to on behalf of the board, and that's certainly a possibility that we can do that. I just threw that out. We don't have to. We can continue the way we've been doing it. I just want to make sure that we are, if that is a concern that patrons are not being responded to, that we make sure that we have that shored up. Did you have something, Doug?
I was just going to say, the way it's currently written in the handbook is that we've given you some verbiage there that is, a good talking point. If you do get a patron concern, that you'll look into it, you'll refer it to the appropriate administrative staff and then follow up to make sure that their concerns are resolved. That's how we've done it in the past, but I'd be happy to reconsider that.
It's just more who does it.
So in the past, it's been staff that's done it.
Right, as far as the board though, who, and that's what I guess I'm just asking about there. Do we want to have a consistent?
So I think, Nicole, when there's a district-wide concern, or there's, something that's impacting the district as a whole, I think it's critical that our board president is the one to send that information out in that email, because it's consistent messaging, right? And when we put you in as whoever is board president, we are entrusting you to do those kinds of things, to be the mouthpiece for the board. And so instead of having 7 different, conversations, and then all of a sudden that information can be a little bit misconstrued sometimes, and then all of a sudden we have board member versus board member, that gets a little tricky. And so I like, as far as the broad spectrum, I like having you reply on behalf of the board. However, I do think that a lot of us, we get concerns about something that's happening in our school, right? In one of our schools. I have 13 schools in my precinct, but I have a lot of other schools that they feed into, and so it's even broader than that. And there's a lot of us that share schools that are quite large. And so I think as an individual board member, representing that school, I'm happy, and frankly, I think it's my duty, my responsibility to actually reply back. Because typically when I get those emails, either I've heard of it or I want to hear about it. And then I can go through the process of, ensuring that the right information gets to the right person so that the resolution can be, found, and then also followed back up with me, so that I can follow back up with that patron that's giving me the concern in the first place. So it's a tricky question to answer, because I think it depends a little bit on the situation. And maybe board members disagree with that, but I like broad spectrum things. I like the board president to speak. But if it's something specific to my schools that they're entrusting that concern with, then I'm happy to step up and take that feedback and work through that problem.
I agree with that, because I think that's who wants to hear from, their representative, who's representing them. Can you just clarify, have we had feedback that maybe they're not, do we have some way to know, did everyone get this email or not? Because sometimes they'll blind copy people, or they'll send it to each one of us separately. So maybe we just need to clarify, hey, did all of you guys get this email? And if we did, Nicole will respond or whatever. So maybe it's just figuring out who got the email and who responds.
So in a standardized way, maybe, that's just what I was suggesting, is coming up with maybe a standardized way that if it is something, because it's true, there have been a couple emails that I'm like, did everybody get this? Do I just respond as myself, or do I respond for everybody? So maybe we need to make sure that we have that process in place. Kim, what were your thoughts?
And I don't think I've experienced an incident where it's gone horribly wrong. I think the way that we've handled it thus far, while I've been on the board, has worked well. I wouldn't want a process that gives the responsibility to someone else when my constituent reaches out. So I feel like we're in a good spot. I don't know, honestly don't remember if I'm the one on emerging in there or not, but as I'm looking at the question today, my thought would be maybe if it was me, maybe I was looking at the concern part of the question, because I know we've had discussions about this before, like if someone submits an actual official complaint, do we have an actual process for how we're handling those? And I don't think we did have anything formal on that. And so maybe that's where that came from. I don't remember, though, if that's why. But I do like that when we have, feedback coming in from board decisions that happened, and we're coordinating responses through you. Those are good. I just don't know how you make a formal process around when that happens and when it doesn't. Like Karen said, I think there's differences based on the situation.
So maybe that's something we can follow up then on how we handle patron concerns and questions and comments. We can follow up with Ben on that later. Okay. All right, the board working with the superintendent and district audit committee monitors school district audits. We have, I think, gotten to a good place with that. With our audit committee, something that has improved over the last couple of years. Would you say that is true, Karen Clark? I think we've improved that a lot.
Considering we didn't even have one a few years ago, I think we're leaps and bounds ahead in that department.
Yeah. Board ensures that the budget is developed. I love that we now have a budget committee and that you guys all have eyes on that and you're looking at it in respect to the strategic plan. I like that we are connecting things to our strategic plan with our budget as well. And we rated ourselves pretty high in that. Stacy, great job on this. This was, we rated you high for thanking you for doing audio and printed board meetings. Minutes are readily available on our website. Board policies are consistent with federal, state law, USBE rule, and the district strategic plan and priorities. I think our law and policy group is pretty, I'd like to think we're pretty good at that too, and with Doug's help that we line those pretty well. The board has a process in place to regularly review existing policies. Again, we're improving that and doing really a lot better with that, so thank you, Doug, and your team. This was the one where we didn't have anybody rate ourselves highly proficient. The board annually reviews, adjusts its strategic plan and to reflect needed improvements. So I think it sounds like, though, that we have a plan in place. Superintendent Horsley spoke about some things that you're working on so that we can bring that back and review that regularly. And that was the only comment on that one. This section, the board and the superintendent with stakeholder input have established a district strategic plan that includes specific goals. I think that does go back to speak if anybody, to me at least, with the approaching the proficient, that we are working on that strategic plan and that we are working on getting also feedback to that, and I think that's in progress. The board works to reach consensus through open dialogue and transparency on important matters. Somebody rated us approaching, totally fine. So again, if we're not being transparent, let's have a chat and see what we can do to improve that. All board members, nobody rated us highly proficient on this, so that's why I highlighted it. And somebody rated us emerging. So honor and stand behind board decisions even when the vote is not unanimous. It's just kind of a best practice that as a board, we stand together as a board, even if we personally did not agree with it. But I think everybody in this room has stood on the opposite side of a decision at one point or another. But just a reminder that is our job as a board, is to be unified in our support. The board and superintendent effectively work together to achieve the district strategic plan and board priorities. We did okay on that one. Annually, the board evaluates the superintendent business administrator. We rated mostly ourselves proficient on that, but we certainly improved from approaching, so I think we're on the right path with that. And so somebody said it was stakeholder input on number one, and I think that was probably Julie that said, I believe it's time for the evaluation committee to do it. So number one, stakeholder input is probably where we need to make sure we're getting that. Is that fair? And that's the last one. So, Chris, what do you have as far as our goals that we've talked about?
Mostly our communication goals, for feedback, for policy, and then that's all really the main conversation is communication goals with our stakeholders. Okay. Everything else, we kind of just decided we're doing good.
I'd like to make an observation. I think this survey was done by USBA. Is that correct?
It was USBA's survey. I put it on.
Yeah.
I put it on.
They asked the question. They were the questions that they made up the questions.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like those questions bring us to good discussion. But when we are a group of elected officials trying to lead a district where a third of the kids are proficient, it feels like that is not, when I talk about making goals and setting goals, it's not on anything that was in there. I'm interested in talking about those literacy rates and what goals are we going to set. I mean, we've all been bored to tears trying to think of a goal to set from this USBA survey. Nobody's been passionate about anything that we've talked about, and it's because this doesn't tap into why we are on the board. None of us got on the board for any single thing that was written up here. And again, I think they're important discussions, but I'm not sure that's where our goals are going to come from. Our goals are going to come from our data and from our vision, honestly, I think. So I feel like there's got to be a different approach. I think that we have different things we want to achieve than what this addressed.
This just kind of gave us a glimpse of how we feel like we're doing as kind of just running the board, not necessarily goals as a board for our district.
Okay, I thought I was coming in here to make goals, like goals. And so, yeah, and I'm not saying this wasn't really valuable. I think we've had some valuable discussions here and a little bit at our retreat too from this. I think this is something we should continue to do. I was thinking I had a different expectation.
Yeah, I think the key is, and Superintendent Horsley hit on this, that we set our vision and mission, that's our job, and we tell them what to do, but they need to do the goals as far as how to do it, you know. If we want to see, if we want to see improved proficiency rates, we hand that off then and say there. So for us to set a goal of saying, well, we want our proficiency rates to be here, that's not our goal, that's their goal.
Yeah, my evaluation's not till a later date.
Well, that's what I was going to say. We do still set goals where that is concerned. I mean, maybe the goal is that we make sure our superintendent evaluation reflects different things. Maybe we want to impact that. Maybe our goal is that we want to, I think that getting better feedback is going to help us to achieve that literacy rate. I don't think it means that we don't have goals that impact that. I mean, if I am in the wrong place if I don't get to set a goal that impacts literacy, because that is the entire reason that I am here. And I'm not saying that I am the expert in the room who should be carrying everything out, but I'm here to advocate. I'm here to advocate, support, allocate resources effectively, create policies that bring about achievement. And that is a big job. And so there ought to be goals associated with doing that job better, right? I already had an off day today. I feel like I'm grouchy also.
But I think what you said is true, because every school has that same goal. What do we need to do to help the school achieve their literacy goal? Every school has, I want to improve by X%. Okay, so what do we as a board have to implement and finance or whatever to help that work? What is it that, is there anything that we can do to help teachers help their students or within the school?
Well, and now you're making me think of, advocacy goals with the legislature, goals that help us to involve our community. Now, we, again, you're right, do not carry out those goals, but we give those off and we say these are things that we want achieved. That doesn't mean that we're not doing them. We're holding people accountable for those goals. Yeah, I feel like there are goals that I can set that are going to get me closer to doing my job better. And I don't feel like we've got to them tonight. I do like this communication goal, but I think there are more to be had, and we just haven't got to that conversation yet.
I also think this is just a little bit different subject, but just coming back to the survey in general. I'm over here, I'm like, the timing of discussing this is off to me. No, none of us remember what answers we put on what questions, which devalues the kind of the conversation we've had tonight. Whereas if we do this, I would like to do the entire discussion right after, because then we're all gonna know why we put the answer we did. We're all going to be able to chime in. I think to your point where we're just kind of looking at this and everyone's just sitting back, I think it's because we don't remember what we put. And so if we want this survey to be a little bit more effective as far as driving change, recognizing what we're doing good, improving what maybe needs to be improved, and you know, celebrating the things that are going well as well. So, but I think the timing of this, we took this back in,
It was
So
in
at the
June,
end
and we
of
did
June?
have it planned for June, if you remember, but there were certain things that
well,
happened.
and I understand that. I'm just saying, and you know, bringing this back today, 3 months later, I don't know how much I'm getting from it. It's been, I would just like to revisit it earlier, I guess, because it's more meaningful to me.
Yeah, I want to clarify, we took it in June, we planned to discuss it in July. That's when
No, we
we're-
planned to discuss it in June. It was at
At
our
our
June
board
retreat.
retreat, right?
And then Rich
Which was
decided
at
to
the-
leave us.
I'm trying to say.
That's
that-
what happened.
That
Yeah.
we didn't know in.
Are you
early
listening,
June
Rich?
That Rich was leaving. I was going to say too, that another part of this evaluation is that if we want to find out what we could do better as a board, I think that like our ELT and probably our DISC committee, I mean, these are people who can tell us, you want to know how you can support us? Here are some
And-
ideas.
Yeah, and they do suggest that you have, I don't remember if it's every 3 years or every other year, have your district personnel also. So I was planning on doing that next year, or whoever, just passing that on. But yeah, no, I appreciate that, Karen, and we were planning on doing it. It just didn't happen because of that, and we didn't have another study session between June and today. So that's the first study session that we had. So just some, you know, just, we've never had board goals, I don't think, so coming up with something, the communication part of this is, I think, a good place to start. I think it is also connecting it to the strategic plan. I like that we are, you know, we have this budget committee that is looking at the strategic plan and how we as a board can budget our money to fulfill that strategic plan. I think making sure that we're connecting things to the strategic plan, whatever we do.
I also want to say it's not, that we have never had like formal goals where we like set a goal at the beginning of the year and then re-evaluated that at the end of the year. But we have had many goals.
Sure, yes, you're correct.
They haven't been formalized, and we have achieved a lot of goals. We just haven't done it in this way that's very intentional yet. And I love the intentionality, and I feel like this is huge progress. I'm really excited. I think we're on a good path. So
I would like to add on to that thought and extend appreciation for that acknowledgement, because I feel like I've gotten some pretty clear directives from this board about what you expect to be accomplished. So, and sometimes people come to me, well, why did you make this decision? Why did you make, it's because what the board told me I needed to be focused on. I think sometimes there's a perception out there that superintendent's the big boss of the whole district, which is not entirely false, but I have 7 bosses that I report to, and try to convey as appropriate how we're working to accomplish the directives that I have been given from my supervisors. So with respect to that, as we look at potentially adopting some goals as a Board of Education, especially as they relate to specific academic goals and pursuits, I hope you would give us a chance to implement this scorecard and start giving you some regular data from our strategic plan after we've had a chance to work through our reimagination on the District Improvement Steering Committee. Let us get through some of those steps as part of our 180-day strategy. I should say my 180-day strategy. and then kind of see and understand what we are implementing and make sure that aligns with what directives I've been given, then we can publicly create some academic goals, if that makes sense. I think we need a little more time, and that would be appreciated.
Okay. So there'll be some follow-up via email and possibly as we come to some other conclusions, maybe in a public meeting. But that concludes our meeting tonight. So with that, I will entertain a motion.
Move to adjourn.
We have a motion
Second?
and a second to adjourn. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Julie would like to chat with everybody, so before you take off, this is about concerning our legislators in the classroom, and we'd also like to get a picture with everybody's hat on.